Hello everyone, happy Friday to you. Although what we're going to look at today isn't all that happy. Most of you have probably been following the news lately and seeing the crazy weather around the world and different things that are happening. And of course, the prophets of doom are yelling global warming and climate change, and who knows? Of course, the climate is changing. The climate always has changed. Nothing new. Matter of fact, today we're going to look at Black Sunday. Ever heard of it? Well, let's take a look and find out more about it. It happened in the United States back in the 1930s, of course known as the Dust Bowl era. Black Sunday darkens a nation. Sunday, April 14th, 1935, began as a clear, pleasant day over much of the Midwest. But within hours, daytime would be transformed to night as a weather front with 60-mile-per-hour winds threw up a monstrous dust cloud from the barren fields of the Dust Bowl, burying homes and millions of tons of dust. People in the small towns and farms of Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and Colorado were used to dust storms and were ready to seal windows, doors, and every possible crack in their houses with sheets, blankets, and newspapers. But this particular storm, which came to be known as Black Sunday, was different. In Dodge City, Kansas, a strange nighttime fell for 40 minutes in the middle of the day, followed by 3 hours of near darkness. Inside their homes, men, women, and children huddled with handkerchiefs or wet sponges over their noses, struggling to breathe. Many believed the world was coming to an end. A few hours later in Chicago, the cloud dumped 3 pounds of soil for each person in the city. The next day it blanketed New York and Washington, D.C., before sweeping out into the Atlantic Ocean. The origin of the disaster. The April 1935 storm was the worst of the Dust Bowl, an ecological disaster that lasted for years at the height of the Great Depression. Affecting 100 million acres of the Great Plains, it brought poverty and malnutrition to millions, and spurred an exodus of poor farmers to the west coast of the United States. For years, the Plains region had enjoyed high grain prices and phenomenal crops. But farmers had been overproducing for more than a generation. Overgrazing by cattle and sheep had further stripped the landscape. By 1930, more than 30 million acres of southern plains, once held in place by native prairie grasses, had been laid bare. The crisis began in 1931. Farmers enjoyed another bumper crop of wheat, but the resulting surplus forced prices down. Many farmers went broke, and others abandoned their fields just at the start of a severe drought that would last much of the decade. In 1932, more than a dozen dust storms, whipped skyward by strong dry winds, ravaged the United States. The following year, the storms numbered 38, and a region centering on northern Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas was dubbed the Dust Bowl. The first great storm occurred in May of 1934, when high winds swirled 300,000 tons of soil from Montana and Wyoming. By evening, the black blizzard began depositing dust like snow on the streets of Chicago. By dawn the next day, the cloud had rolled eastward over New York, Washington, D.C., and Atlanta, dimming the sun before moving out to sea and dusting ships 300 miles offshore. In the Midwest, summer temperature records were broken, and thousands of livestock starved and suffocated. Hundreds of people died from heat stroke, malnutrition, and dust pneumonia. In March of 1935, another big storm began to blow topsoil from the fields of Kansas, Colorado, Texas, and Oklahoma all the way to the East Coast. But it was only a prelude to what was to come. 20 huge dust storms tore through the region on April 14, 1935, converging in a single front headed east. Witnesses reported that at times they could not see 5 feet in front of them. A pilot who encountered a dust cloud at 20,000 feet assumed it was a thunderstorm. She tried to climb above it, but could not, and had to turn back. In Oklahoma and Texas, humble homesteads were literally buried beneath feet of dust. When the dust settled, a drastic migration began that would culminate in 15% of Oklahomans leaving the state. Called Okies in California, the uprooted people searching for a new life actually came from all the states of the Midwest affected by the continuing disaster. Working for the Farm Security Administration, photographer Dorothea Lange documented their lives, while novelist John Steinbeck immortalized their plight with The Grapes of Wrath. Black Sunday would be an impetus for change. With dirt from the storm falling over Washington, D.C., Hugh Hammond Bennett, a soil surveyor from North Carolina who helped found the soil conservation movement, won the support of Congress, which declared soil erosion a national menace. Later that year, President Roosevelt signed into law the Soil Conservation Act of 1935, establishing Soil Conservation Service in the Department of Agriculture. Under Bennett's direction, an aggressive campaign to stabilize the region's soil began. Roosevelt also undertook banking reforms and agricultural policies to help rescue the Plains farmers. One of his programs led to the planting of more than 222,000 trees. For the next years, however, the drought continued. As summer temperatures soared to 120 degrees, sporadic rains and floods in 1937 and 1938 joined the continuing dust storms, and wintertime brought a new kind of storm called a snuster, a mixture of dirt and snow reaching blizzard proportions. The fall of 1939 finally brought the rains that ended the drought. With new farming methods and increased agricultural demand due to World War II, the plains once again became golden with wheat. So there you have it, Black Sunday. Temperatures in the 120s, drought for almost a decade. So, as Solomon said, there is nothing new under the sun. We didn't experience it, so we don't remember it. So we think that what we're going through must be the worst thing that ever happened. But worse disasters have happened before. And probably more disasters will happen in the future. And somehow the human race survives and carries on. Doesn't mean that individuals don't suffer and there aren't losses, but it's just the nature of living on this planet we call Earth. So I hope you've enjoyed today's little formative story about the event known as Black Sunday. And I hope you'll join us on Tuesday for Tuesdays with the Pilgrim. Enjoy your weekend, and until then, take care, stay safe, and God bless.